We're joined now by Republican presidential candidate and former New Jersey Governor Christie. What do you make of Donald Trump's involvement or at least interest in this?
Well, it's no shock, Jake. Look, he's been, begging for this for quite some time. So I'm not the least bit shocked by Donald Trump trying to inject himself into House Republican caucus decisions in a way that he thinks will help him. But in the end, whatever happens to Joe Biden, one way or the other, Donald Trump still has a lot of his own issues to deal with. So he probably should keep focused on keeping his eye on the ball.
You said that this is cheapening impeachment, this inquiry. What do you mean by that?
What I said was, Jake, if in fact, you don't have greater facts than what you have now, it would be cheapening impeachment. And I think that we've been in a process, what I said this morning was, been in a process of doing that for a number of years. And it's not just what's happening today, but what happened during some of the Trump years and also during what happened during some of the Clinton years as well. So I think we need to be careful about that. I do think that an investigation needs to be had both by congressional oversight and by the special counsel. There's enough smoke here that you need to look. The president was really unequivocal about saying that he had no involvement of any kind in his son's business dealings. And we now have a business partner of Hunter's that says something different than that. That in and of itself is not enough to start an impeachment proceeding, but to have an investigation, that and all the other things that have gone on, I think there are enough to go and begin an investigation. That's what's happening. Let's see where the facts lead us.
Puck's Tara Palmieri reports that Democrat David Brock says he intends to use his Democratic firm to go on the offensive and distribute opposition research targeting family members of various congressional Republicans and how they have benefited from their parents' position in the way that Hunter presumably has from his father's position. What do you make of that? That seems kind of like what we saw during the Clinton impeachment, people going after Henry Hyde and the like.
Yeah, look, this is what our politics, unfortunately, has devolved into, Jake, in recent years. And look, this is part of what's happened in the last two presidencies. Donald Trump's folks, his children, Jared and Ivanka in particular, benefiting greatly from his time as president. Billions of dollars from the Saudis, $500 million or so from the Qataris and the Emiratis. People have big questions about that as well. And I think when you add that, why would anybody have hired Hunter Biden to do anything if his last name wasn't Biden? I think everybody in this country is disgusted by it, but I think everyone's going to have their house looked at if they're going to throw stones. And so that's the way politics works these days. But if your family has not done something that should lead you to be concerned or embarrassed, then you have nothing to worry about.
Congress is gearing up for a big fight over spending, as you know. If you were president right now, how would you avoid a government shutdown? And how would you take on the larger debt and deficit crisis?
Well, Jake, look, what you have to do is first of all, let people know that we've got to reduce our spending and our debt. I would do it as a new president by introducing in my first budget zero-based budgeting. I would start every federal program back at zero and then make the department justify that spending. We need to start right back at ground zero. And if we don't do that, then we're assuming spending that's in the trillions of dollars in this country, some of which may be completely unnecessary or no longer useful for what it was originally intended to be. So we need to start at zero and work our way back up. That's what I would encourage Congress and the president to do. I'm sure they won't. So when I'm president in January of 2025, I'm going to have the chance to do that. By the way, Jake, I did that in New Jersey when we had an $11 billion deficit on a $29 billion budget that was left to me by John Corzine. And we eliminated 683 individual programs on the course of doing zero-based budgeting. We probably would not have eliminated those programs, but for doing it that way. And I think it can work not to balance the budget on the federal level, but to start to get our deficits down and add much less to our debt.
I'm going to start asking presidential candidates this question. You're the first person. Tell me one policy you would enact as president within your first year that would make the lives of the American people better?
Well, what I would do in my first year, Jake, in fact, on the first day, is to partner the National Guard with our Customs and Border Patrol people at the border with the specific task of interdicting fentanyl before it comes across the border. We had 110,000 Americans of every race, gender, background, socioeconomic status die of overdose in the last year. It's the leading killer now among 18 to 34-year-olds. And we need to stop this fentanyl from coming in across the border. And it will improve every neighborhood in this country when we get this fentanyl out of our neighborhoods and get folks away from dying of overdoses from this incredibly lethal Chinese-generated drug. So that's something I would do, not on the first year, Jake, but on the first day to try to slow down the crossing of our border of folks who are carrying fentanyl for the Mexican drug cartels.
Presidential candidate Chris Christie, thank you so much for your time.
Jake, thanks for having me on today. I appreciate it.